All right. Thank you everyone for joining. Really excited for our panel today. We have a stellar lineup here. Um, if everyone can just, before we get started, throw in where you're joining from into the chat. I'm curious where everyone is dialing in from. I'm coming from Boston, really eager for the snow to melt soon. Great. Well, welcome to today's event, State of Demos 2026, Trends Shaping the Year Ahead. Let's get into it. We surveyed more than 500 solutions engineers to understand the trends they see shaping the demo landscape this year based on what they see in the roles every day. They're experiencing the complexity of lots of new technology, primarily AI, in two unique ways, both having to demonstrate this new technology and also having to navigate this new technology as part of the quickly changing demo tech landscape. For our conversation today, we are really fortunate to be joined by some top-tier lineup of panelists to discuss those findings. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. We have Lauren Anderson from iCIMS. Lauren has been in pre-sales role for 6 years and currently leads a team tasked with scaling demo excellence at iCIMS. Welcome, Lauren. And next we have Matthew Young-James. He is coming to us from Wise. Matthew is New York City's SE. He specializes in enterprise pre-sales for financial services clients. And today he works at Wise, which is the best way to move money across borders. Welcome, Matthew.
I'm fresh off that banking call, hence the collared shirt.
Very, very professional, looking good. And finally, we have Courtney Zam from Confiant. Courtney has been leading pre-sales efforts and building SE teams for the past 13 years, most recently at Confiant. Thank you all for joining. Excited to get started.
Same.
And while we get started, a couple words, feel free if you want to connect with folks to throw your LinkedIn in the chat. You can also chime right in. These questions, yes, we have the panelists speaking live, but we also want to hear from everyone else as well. And if you have questions, you can submit them in the Q&A portal, or you can throw them right in the chat, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. So let's jump in. Question 1. Our first finding from the survey found that 97% of respondents don't see AI avatars as the future, which I think is really interesting. The report indicated that SEs are not being replaced because customers still want to get a demo from a live person, and there's been this shift back to a return to authenticity. For our panelists, have you experienced the AI avatar demo trend, and how do you think it would impact a brand's relationship with its buyers, or how would it fit into the demo landscape?
Lauren and Courtney, I was really surprised at this one because I've not seen an AI avatar demo, right? What about you guys?
No.
Nope.
Agreed.
And I just think it would be, I don't know. I don't know how I would receive it. So if anyone on the webinar has seen an example of this, please send it to me on LinkedIn. I would be really fascinated to actually dive into it. Now, here's the thing. When I hear AI avatar, I'm picturing something that is speaking to you, maybe not even with a face. They're clicking through some set of screens, and it goes through a demo that I don't think could be customized to me at that level. And here's my point. I would really like something like this to be customer centric. And is an AI avatar the way to do that? I haven't seen it to be the case yet.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what I didn't find surprising was that 97% of people said they're not seeing this as the future, because I totally agree. Customizing through AI when it's an avatar doesn't really feel possible. I will say in the hiring landscape, there are instances of candidates using AI avatars to run their interviews on their behalf. So I don't think it's far-fetched, but from a demo perspective, it just doesn't feel like it's there yet. Maybe, initial SDR calls or those more repetitive instances, but not for like a customized demonstration.
Yeah, especially as well, the numbers vary, at least based on my Googling this morning. Over half of buyers, over half of a buyer's time and evaluation is spent doing independent research. So when they get to you, they already are pretty informed about your solution, what it does, the challenges that it solves. And so I cannot see it being customer centric to then inject AI at that part of the journey because they've already probably been prompting their LLM, hey, tell me about the best solutions for this. What are the pros and cons? What are the differences? And at that point, they really want to have a conversation with a rep if they are raising their hand and saying, hey, I'm interested in your solution. Please give me a demonstration. I think it's a really missed opportunity to have that not be an individual at that moment.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay, so if there's this focus on authenticity, our survey found that the return to authenticity is the major prediction for 2026. What specific moments in a demo can AI simply never replicate? I know you kind of talked a little bit about these, but would love to zoom in a little bit more. Like, where's the line between helpful automation? Certainly, AI is useful in demos, right? And then where's the line between that helpful automation and then like fake interactions that might drive those buyers away?
I kind of, to riff off of what Courtney said, I think AI is super helpful in creating hypotheses that then get validated in the demonstration. But like ultimately, people want to talk to people at this phase. They've raised their hand, they've agreed to talk to a salesperson, right? Which is a level of interest that's been expressed. And I think AI can help the solution consultant or sales engineer to establish an understanding of the organization they're going to demo to and to create those hypotheses. But then it's ultimately, the audience is craving interaction and someone that can understand their personal motivations, the challenges that their team are facing, and then start to solution with them in that authentic human to human interaction.
I think that point of getting close to that person is something that AI can help with. Now, you got to deploy it with tact. Here's the thing. But I do see AI being able to help you a lot in your befores and your afters. So as you walk into a call, creating that hypothesis, like you said, Lauren. And for me, that's always going to be really focused on the business case that we're building together. What does that look like? Putting some prompts in to understand the state of the business that you're speaking with. And you can even go further than that, right? There's 3 tiers that I see. 1 is the overall business challenges. 2, let's say you're speaking with the CTO. Ask your prompt system, ask Gemini, what would a CTO in this position be thinking about? And then even this person specifically, with the amount of information that we can find now, you might be able to come up with something that is really, really targeted. And that is going to save you a lot of time in your prep. But it's then delivering those things on a call that you really need to do personally, because it's obvious if you're reading from a script. Taking that next step and making it your own message, I think, is so important.
I have one. Courtney, go ahead.
No, you can go.
Oh, I just want to say, I also think like post, because all of our calls now have the AI summary. So taking that AI summary, combining it with your research, and then using that to provide that personalized follow-up of, hey, this is what we heard, this is what we showed, this is what we agreed on, and this is what's next. I do think that's helpful use of leveraging AI and engaging with your prospects and customers. Sorry, Courtney.
That's okay. The reality is the thing that the AI will never be able to replicate is the true understanding and connection with the buyer and the empathy for what they are going through. I'm not going to connect with the machine or an LLM in that way, in the way that I can with someone who's on the other side of the table that says, I have heard these challenges before. The good news is we've solved them for these customers. Yes, you can definitely train your LLM on here are the, case studies, the challenges we solve. Here's the things I hear from buyers. But that true human to human connection, Lauren, like you mentioned, just can't be replicated. And I think so much we hear people buy from people. And so that human to human connection during that sales cycle is clearly something that has driven sales since the dawn of time and will continue to do so.
I think you brought up one of these superpower phrases that are so rare in pre-sales. You can't really go and reuse things from other places. But whenever you get the chance to say, your set of problems is something we're familiar with and we've solved them before, that is huge. I think it's so important that you highlighted that, Courtney. Like, And that just doesn't work if you're sending it over an email, right? It's being able to really empathize with someone and look them in the eye. You can almost like see the breath kind of like exhale from them as they see that you've walked through something like this before.
Mm, definitely. Okay, so AI, we agree, probably not going to be giving the demos anytime soon, but it's also not going anywhere. Where are you seeing AI being used like behind the scenes? And where are you using AI in demo automation? And yeah, how are you applying it?
We were demoing an API product, and the most advanced use that I've seen of this, and a big shout out to my coworker Peter, who's kind of our AI expert. He took a customer's website, fed it into Gemini, and said, I want to implement this set of APIs to do exactly this. And then he actually got it to write the code that he could run locally and essentially show them what a full-on integration might look like. And he did that in an afternoon instead of taking what would probably be a weekend or a week or getting a bunch of other FDEs involved. And now, of course, that wasn't actually an end state, but getting the message across in one demo, that kind of expanded my mind of what can be done with the state of AI today.
That's great. Lauren or Courtney, do you have any other examples you want to share? Okay.
I think we already kind of talked about it, but just
Yeah.
leveraging LLMs to take all of the information that's available on an organization and then using a prompt to synthesize it in a way that you can leverage in the conversation. Again, to build those hypotheses, to create an understanding of the roles, the industry, the company itself. I've seen that be really effective in, the discovery phase ahead of, providing a custom demonstration.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's something that our audience can apply right away, some of these tips. But also feel free to chime in the chat if there are other ways you're applying AI that, the rest of us can benefit from. We'd love to hear it. Okay. So we do these surveys quarterly. One we released earlier last year found that SEs typically spend 24% of their week either configuring or customizing demos for customers. So that's about a quarter of their week just doing that manual work. It's very time consuming and not spending time with customers. Like we just said, that's where we can deploy people and they have high value. So if AI can now handle that heavy lift of building those environments, managing them, that 24% of the week for an SE that they're doing that work, how should the SEs reallocate that time savings to better serve their buyers? Lauren, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll go start.
Yeah.
I jumped in ahead of Courtney, so I was going to wait, Courtney, to see if you wanted to tackle this first. But I think, carrying on the theme of returning to authenticity, I think that time is better spent creating connections with the people that you're working with and at the organization. Maybe that's setting up individual time with someone who was vocal in a discovery or a demo call. Maybe that's collaborating more, spending more time internally of the set within the sales team to create a plan on how we're going to execute solving the prospect's challenges. I think the time is just best dedicated with hyper focus on that specific customer or prospect that you're working with and establishing stronger relationships and an understanding of what they need.
Great.
I think one of the things that I've seen that's really cool is beyond just the demo environment customization, but just leveraging AI throughout that technical sale. It's creating a positive shift in the turnaround time between qualification, discovery, and demo. So this deal velocity is picking up. So if you're researching your customer more efficiently, you can do better discovery. If you have AI summarizing discovery for you, you have a faster turnaround time on how you solution for them and that demo environment customization. And then that demo environment is highly tailored without as much calorie burn from your SEs, which means you're delivering higher quality outcomes for customers in less time and with less effort. And for any of those of us who manage SEs on the call, if your SEs can cover more opportunities with less burnout, that is a huge win for them personally, you as their manager, and overall the business. If we are accelerating pipe gen and qualification and moving into trial or legal review faster, that's a huge return on investment for everyone with this tooling.
Yeah, who doesn't like faster deal velocity? I'll sign up for that. That sounds great. Good. Any more thoughts? I have many more questions kind of building off of this. There's, if we're looking to the demos themselves, one of the other things our survey found was that 55% of SEs still use screenshots or mocks, even though buyers often want realism. We just talked about that customization. So we just talked about deal velocity. How much deal velocity are teams losing? Are they losing any deal velocity by not showing the real product if they're using screenshots and mocks? What have your organizations experienced? Courtney, I'll send it right back to you.
Yeah, so I firmly believe that the purpose of a demo is to functionally prove that your product or solution can solve for that specific client's challenge or use case. So what that means is you use whatever tools are at your disposal that will best demonstrate that particular solution. So sometimes that's the live product because you need to be able to show that their workflow is reduced, the time to actually deliver something is significantly increased, just less cumbersome overall. But the other times, a mock-up or a screenshot might actually be the best way to showcase a challenging integration flow, or that there's some other technical complexity to showing something live. And so I think it's ultimately about using what best helps you showcase the value in the most frictionless way for the customer on the other end. If you're showcasing the solution, you've achieved the objective.
Yeah, when first started out as an SE, I thought the demo was one thing. If someone said, we need a demo, I would log into my Sandbox account and I would walk them through the demo. I would show them what it looks like to link an account and I would show them what the data looks like. And sure, that is a demo, but I think it misses the point entirely because Courtney, you nailed it. Every demo's got a purpose. And so I used to think of having kind of a tool belt of demos that we had to touch on any particular kind of thing that we might need a call or a demo to move forward, right? As far as deal velocity goes, we find ourselves at some point, there's some set of challenges in front of us, questions from the customer or stalling a deal, whatever it is. You're using that demo to accomplish some small step before you get to that overall contract signature. And so at my last company, I had 7 ways to demo one product. And that was before AI came around. And I think what AI does is it allows you to go even more granular on whatever that exact thing is you're trying to do, tailor your demo to just that, nothing more, nothing less.
So I agree with everything that was just said. And I think it is so situational. And one of the comments here talks about, the debate of the screenshot that aligns to the industry versus a live example that you kind of have to storytell around for it to really resonate in the minds of whoever you're talking to. And I think it's such a combination of both with the goal in mind of the demonstration resonating with your audience and them being able to see themselves in whatever you're showing them, right? And so I think there is a combination of in some cases, we used demo automation for creating custom demo flows that can be or they're a standard demo flow, but the data can be customized to make it seem like it is a fully custom live demonstration. And then in some cases, it's really just like layering an experience over an industry specific backdrop so that it resonates with the audience. And I think it's just such it's a requirement to really blend the use of live environments, the use of mockups, and the use of demo automation, especially in the age of AI. If you're showing a specific experience over and over again and it's powered by generative AI, at some point, the generative AI is going to say, no, I've done this. What you want, you're prompting me to do, I already did that. I have no other feedback, right? And so that's something where a click through or leveraging demo automation to show something over and over again rather than using a live environment, I think is entirely appropriate because you're still showing it as it's intended to work that one time the person who's you're selling to is going to use it versus over and over when an SC is showing it.
That makes sense. And so, I mean, I also think about it as different demo types for different parts of the funnel too. You know, if you have someone who's just learning about the product and wants to kick the tires on it, like on your website or earlier on, versus someone who's deep in the sales cycle, will need different assets depending on what they have. I'm curious, Lauren, you mentioned, you know, doing something in a repeatable way. The survey found that SEs listed realism as the #1 priority this year and reliability as #2. So how do you think about that realism? You talked about showing something like it's brand new over and over again. How do you achieve that realism and balance that with reliability?
Yeah, I have to plug Reprise here because we use it to ensure both realism and reliability are met, specifically in the use cases of showing our AI capabilities inside the iCIMS platform. There are situations where, you know, the AI capabilities that we've built are intended to be used once, something like optimizing a job description or creating interview questions, or evaluating candidates, right? And if we're asking it to do that over and over again, like the reliability of getting a good example of how generative AI is helping to optimize a job description, you're going to get that twice. And then the third time, you've done it. It's been accomplished. And so, unless an SC can refresh their entire environment ahead of that next demonstration, it is no longer a reliable thing to demo. And that's why we love using demo automation for that, because we can have that repeatable example of what good looks like in the platform and the expected behavior for, you know, a user that's going to do this once. So that really helps us cover both realism and reliability.
Okay. Matthew, what are your thoughts on this? How do you look at this?
I think you want to incorporate these things in a way that is tying to your sales methodology. And what I think of is kind of, to summarize too much, but knowing the why for a demo, knowing the why for a specific customer. And I think that in itself is balancing realism and reliability. You want to have your SEs having a process where they know how to take what the customer's been telling them and put this into some sort of framework. I actually think that Lauren's hit on something very important here, because demo automation does have a really good space in allowing your SEs to know what's going on. We've all got Salesforce, right? That's your sales progression. Okay, we've got a good idea of where a particular account is. But then when it comes to the actual work, you're going to do these little bits of solutioning here and there. What do I do in a demo? I'm probably feeling a little bit more on my own. And I think a well-placed demo automation tool can really help out there.
Okay, great. Courtney, any thoughts?
Well, in addition to sort of understanding what parts of the, you know, cycle or the customer interaction requires those moments, I think you also kind of need to know your buyer. So it's going to vary by industry. I'm in cybersecurity at the moment.
Mhm.
And so the reality is the customer really resonates with those real world examples, where if we tried to customize it just based on their industry, the reality is, I'm in ad tech as well. And so that's like so widespread that sometimes we don't have to isolate. But I probably wouldn't have known that until I watched a few deal cycles, like to Matthew's point, and really understood the moments in the demo where the customer went, oh, that. And if you can replicate that at scale, great. For some of us, demoing some of those things out of production, but then let's say showcasing like the settings and the implementation via automation can be really useful, because then you don't have to keep resetting your space or going back from scratch. So it's going to vary a lot, but ultimately it's about what is going to resonate with the buyer and really help you move that deal forward.
Okay. I like talking about doing this at scale. So if we can zoom in on that, we talked about building these customized environments. Maybe you're using demo automation tools, maybe not. But where do you see the opportunity here? Like if you've implemented one of these solutions or whatever tools you're using, how does automating that environment help your team provide those customized demos at scale? And what's the impact? How are you doing this at scale? You know, we can customize for one, but we need to repeat it.
So I can jump in on this because at ISIMS for our solution experience team, scaling demo excellence means beyond solution consulting. We are also supporting conversations where SDRs maybe need to show a little bit to get the wheels turning and to drive, qualifying an opportunity. We are supporting customer success or even services in showcasing, just as a reminder, you've been in this queue for a little while. This is what we're implementing. These are the phases we're going to take. Or for our customer success teams, previewing some new release features and giving them the opportunity to show what it's going to look like once it's available to them, right? Because we're getting it a little bit ahead of when it's live in a customer environment. And so for us, it's been really helpful to leverage demo automation and to create assets that are outside of a live environment. One, because they're impactful to the customer journey, but two, they're also impactful to our internal teams, having a level of comfort of jumping into a demo or a walkthrough where they have both realism and reliability covered and some guidance on how they should be positioning these new capabilities that they need to showcase to the audience.
Lauren, am I hearing it right that you've actually set up these demos within your SE team and then you're able to hand them out to other teams that then use them to kind of speak with customers at certain points?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination because for us, our solution consultants do a ton from live environments. There are pieces where they're leveraging assets from demo automation, but we're basically taking what an SC does, pulling it up a level, or zooming into just a very particular area in our platform, and then providing links or assets to other parts of the business so that they can leverage that. And now they're providing a demo in areas where they're not necessarily trained to do so because it's not part of their job description, but it impacts really positive impact on the customer journey.
Yeah, $1 million question. How have the other teams given you feedback on that?
We have gotten raving reviews on this stuff, especially in customer success, because, for them, a lot of times they're in someone's dedicated environment. But especially when you're talking about features that are coming out, those aren't in the environment yet. Those users haven't tested them yet. They don't know how to interact with it. So being able to leverage an asset or a click through that gives them that preview, and then they can start getting their wheels turning on, okay, what is this going to look like in our environment? And can you help us think through the best way to scale this out to our users? Has been really impactful in, adoption, as well as just, that being a trusted advisor and a partner to our customers.
That's super cool. So demos are not just a sales tool. You can really increase user adoption, get that customer stickiness. That's great. Well, great. Courtney, anything to add on this idea of, scaling? I know you spoke to it a little bit before.
Well, one thing that we recognized as we started to implement more demo templates and stories in our demo spaces, even using production environments, is then you're actually systematizing the experience your customer has with your product across the customer journey, whether they are interacting with your website, seeing a live demo, or even getting product updates in the future if they're a paying customer. If you've created the space where those demos are consistent, it makes it actually much easier to educate, onboard, and enable your customers long term. And so that's the other component of this, is creating that consistency with how your product is demonstrated, the way that the jobs to be done are showcased, which can really help with making sure that you're solutioning the right way. And then onboarding is able to carry that forward, and then customer success is able to carry that forward. I think it really can improve outcomes in the customer journey and increase your retention long term.
That's great. So kind of aligns, I'm seeing a theme here. It's not just about the sales, also customer engagement and interaction. Great. I have one more question, but while I do that, I have a few questions from the audience we'll get to in a minute. So if you have any more, you can throw them in the Q&A box or in the chat, and we'll get to those in a second. My last question, we've spoken about AI, demo automation, all these technologies can automate so many parts of the demo experience. we agree AI avatars maybe not here tomorrow to steal our jobs, but we do see in the headlines, here's AI coming for our jobs. Do we still need humans? I think we have an emphatic yes. There are still needed humans in solutions engineering. But what I'd love to go around the room here virtually. What's your one piece of advice for SEs to stay indispensable in 2026 when AI is here in so many ways? It's a tool. What's your advice?
Am I allowed to provide two instead of one?
Okay, I'll allow
Please.
it.
Okay, so my first is leverage AI. I think it's available to us and it's an impactful tool. Learn how to use it to make you better at your job and implement it, with haste, because it does improve the outcomes associated with your activities, and allows you to be focused on the human connection with more knowledge, and with more empowerment. And then I guess my second piece, and I'll kind of relate to the first, but is just to be human, right? Be authentic. Take the time to get to know who you're engaging with, create those connections, connect with your audience consistently, because that is how we keep our jobs, right? I'm team human. Let's keep humans in the loop here, but do it while leveraging, shaking hands with the AI tools and use them to your power.
I'm gonna copycat Lauren. I also have two. Um, and the first is I think you'll be headed in the right direction if you're using AI to extend your impact rather than supplement your gaps. Meaning, if you don't understand something, AI should not be the bridge. Like, I don't know how to demo this, so I'm gonna give AI the documentation and have it write my script. But AI absolutely could be, I have a script that really worked, and I'm going to use AI to templatize it so that I can apply it for other customers or other industries or other use cases. So that's thing number one is thinking about it that way. And then the second thing that I would highlight is the reality that both sides of the table are using AI. Your customers using it to get informed before they ever talk to you. They're going to know much more about the jobs that or the things that you solve, the jobs to be done that people typically come to your product with. And so they're going to have more in-depth questions than ever before. The flip side of that is you can leverage AI all the ways that we were talking about, speed up your prep, speed up your discovery, be more informed, get your demo ready faster. Um, and that's all to drive a better customer experience. And so, as Lauren said, use these tools. They're available. They will help you be better.
I like I like that. I like your tip around use it to kind of amplify what you're really good at. I think it made me think of a magnifying glass. Like if you're using it to amplify what you're good at, that's magnifying the good. And if it's going to magnify your gaps if you're using it kind of incorrectly. So that's great. Matthew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot going on with AI. And my way to stay on top of all of that is to know your why. And for me, that comes down to being mission driven. Be aligned to the mission of your company, know what you are trying to accomplish as a business. Be aligned to what you're trying to accomplish in your career. Where are you right now? And be aligned to the mission of your customers. What do they need from you to succeed? I see the pre-sales people that are staying on top of things. This is what sets them apart. And they're using the tools like AI, whatever it is, to enable that. But knowing your why, I think at the end of the day is going to power you better than anything else.
Awesome. Okay, we have a few minutes for questions from the audience. We spoke about avatars way back like a half hour ago. We have one in the chat here. Says, yeah, I feel AI isn't there yet. People do want to interact with a real person initially, everything we talked about. But they did mention if there is an AI agent that can be used post demo so that they can use that to recollect what was discussed during the demo call, that might be a use case. It would simply be an alternative for post demo videos. What do you think about that? So like an AI avatar after the demo.
I feel like there'd still be an element of you have to guide it because I mean, one of the things we talked about is the demo should should align to who you're talking to. No demo should be the same. I think that's the old way of demoing. I think Matthew, you talked about it. You had your demo and you cycled through it. And now, as Courtney said, our buyers are using AI to research us. We're using AI to research them. There's an understanding that we're all coming to the table with a level of knowledge, and we need to be able to go deeper and have a more authentic and pointed discussion that is specific to this engagement between the two parties. And I don't know if I won't say it's not going to get there, but I just don't know if there's an agent right now that could build out that demo that directly aligns to the summary when even the summaries are saying, hey, double check everything that we summarized because some of it may not be accurate.
Yeah, I think a
Yeah.
summary, in theory, yeah, great. Now, maybe my brain is too small. Maybe I'm not dreaming big enough, but I think for me, I want out of a summary bullets that I can consume quickly. And if I'm on the bus or whatever. And an avatar, I'm not sure if it accomplishes that same purpose. Like I
Mhm.
said, maybe I'm not dreaming big enough.
Well, I think it almost puts too much onus on the buyer to have to like I don't know how these things work, so maybe I'm also uninformed, but like, well, we have to prompt it like, oh, I want to see this, and oh, my use case is this, or talk to me like I don't understand this. What seems much more valuable to me is a leave behind that might be just one part of the demo flow that was really valuable or that you know solves the key issue that, let's say, your champion can distribute internally versus sending a recording that's everything that again puts a lot of onus on the people that let's say miss the meeting to find the moments that matter to them. Or Matthew, your point around like a summary could be much better versus something that forces them to choose their own adventure, which again, if they're not engaged in your deal cycle, they may not necessarily know what to do. So again, it puts too much onus on the buyer, and we don't want to do that. We want to make it super simple to buy from us.
I've heard of teams, SE teams, setting up internal chatbots for other teams to come to and ask questions like, hey, do we support this integration, et cetera, et cetera. And I wonder if this is almost like doing that, but on an external basis. And
Hmm.
this feels, it feels too early for me. I don't want to give that up yet. But once again, I could see a world where if it's visible on both sides, maybe your buyer does want to self-inform. And the best way to do that is via something that you have given them. It just feels it feels scary to hand that over and not be able to control the message. So I'm not sure. Those are a couple of thoughts. It'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Maybe in the future. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another question. I know we just have time for one or two more. We talked a lot about the human connection. So how do you coach your newer SEs to handle that off-script pressure without leaning too hard on like a canned demo environment?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think for us, there's an element of, in the same way that you train on objection handling, you also train on how to handle going into the weeds. Because, more often than not, there is that one person that is, the super user of a system and they want to go deep, and it could completely, ruin your demo flow, A, or B, be a time suck in the demonstration. And so one of the things for us is just, knowing the areas where that persona may want to go deep and then having some canned, this is how we address it, and then make it a parking lot item as opposed to going and actually providing a full answer. So a lot of times it's like reporting. I want to see you build this report. Well, we could show you that, or I could just show you that you can alter any report, and this is how we do that. And then I can build that report and show you what it looks like as a leave behind after this.
I think this is why setting a demo agenda at the front of any call, getting buy-in that that is the agenda, that's where you're going to spend your time, gives you so much more leverage in these moments where a buyer might be like, can you show that to me? Because you can say, absolutely, I hadn't planned for that. Should something fall off of the list that we were going to talk about? Or to Lauren's point, should we put this in the parking lot and I can send you that follow-up, either a click through or a recording of me walking through it? It gives you the space to negotiate with that buyer. Um, and that's a great moment where if let's say that was a newer SE and they weren't prepared to do that, they can work around it by saying, should we spend time there? yes, no. Okay, if we should do that on another call because I wasn't prepared for it, or doesn't sound like it's as important to what we were going to talk about here, so we can park it and I'll figure it out later.
Good tips. Okay, we have time for one more. We're almost at time. So last one. This one's interesting. It's about, convincing leadership to look into new technology for teams currently stuck building and maintaining our own internal demo tools. Do you have like a breaking point that finally convinced your leadership team to invest in a dedicated demo technology? Or perhaps there's like tips you have for how to convince leadership.
Yeah, I'll look to Lauren and Courtney to talk about breaking points because our leadership kind of took a strategic decision that they wanted to invest early on this. And so we brought in a tool. I could talk a little bit about the thinking behind that, but when it comes to how we're using it, I see leadership consistently asking us, what does deployment look like? Are you using this in multiple phases? So are we using it just at the introduction of a deal? Are we able to bring in and have impact throughout this entire thing all the way up until the signature? And one thing that I haven't seen that much is leadership actually looking at someone using it. So maybe those would be two things that I would point out as considerations. How wide is your impact on a tool like this? And could you actually demo to them to get a point across?
Great. Any other thoughts before we wrap it up?
I can add to that one a little bit. One of the ways that we were able to create a business case for new technology was to broaden the impact across the business, right? We had to think about, what are our leaders thinking about from a, business achievement perspective and business goals perspective, and how could new technology that is ultimately being purchased for solution consulting provide a broad impact to more areas than just solution consulting. And then we were able to, also pull budget from those other teams and departments as well. And that helped us, secure the funding and the buy-in to deploy new technology. And then it also, broadened my team's impact, which has been great because now we get to work more cross-functionally and we're providing assets that, support the entire customer journey, which has been fantastic.
And then it seems like you really delivered on that promise. You're getting great feedback from these other teams.
Yeah.
I think another way to think about it is if you have the ability to prove that any of these technologies reduce your customer acquisition costs, I think your CFO is way more likely to sign off on the purchase order. And I think it's pretty clear that they will. Either it's going to reduce time to deliver demos, it's going to offload some of those simpler demos to your sales team so you don't have to introduce that more expensive SE resource. And then if you can demo more complex technology at scale to qualify, disqualify opportunities earlier, that just makes everyone more efficient. And so think a little bit about what takes us a long time today. Can these technologies reduce or even eliminate that time? And what does that equate in terms of dollars against what the solution costs? And it should be pretty easy math to do and put in front of your business teams.
Great. Well, I hope everyone is taking notes on that. Wonderful tips and tricks. Really appreciate your time. Thank you to our awesome panelists. Thank you to everyone who joined today. It's fun to dig into the survey results for the trends for this year. I'm really eager to see what the next year looks like and what the survey says next year. I'm sure there's going to be stuff we didn't anticipate that'll pop up. So that'll be fun. We can all come back next year and talk about it. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.